There we go. Now I won't be distracted by my face moving around. Thank you for your patience. All
Yeah,
right. So we've been playing with this. We've been playing
sweet.
with this
Yeah,
pack
I
for
saw
a
you
little
guys
bit.
playing around in the presets.
Nice.
Yeah,
So before we actually jump into all of this, why don't you let everybody know your name, where you're from, and we'll welcome you properly, and then we'll
cool.
tear you to pieces.
Sounds good. Yeah. Yeah, what's going on, guys? My name is Danny Dignan. My artist alias is Imaginate. I was from the Bay Area and then I moved out to Arizona, did some stuff out there, and then just moved out here to LA. And I've been really busy with sample pack stuff and music stuff, working on an album, all kinds of stuff. And we'll probably get into that a little bit later. But yeah, that's what I'm up to.
And how are you holding up in our lovely year of 2020 with the pandemic and everything?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
It's like it's all mindset. I know it's kind of a funny thing to throw around, oh, mindset, right? But like really it's important, especially right now, to analyze where we are individually as people and then where we are as like as a society, and just kind of going with the flow with all of it and doing the best that we can together to make everything just more cohesive in our own lives and then just in society in general. But all that all that deep talk aside, I'm doing great, man. Just staying busy. That's pretty much the recipe for it.
Yeah, yeah. And staying inspired.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. Got to find inspiration everywhere. And even in this time too, like LA is a very inspiring place to be in a lot of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
But just going out in nature wherever you are and kind of escaping the stuff that's being slammed in our faces on social media and the news and everything, it's nice to get a breath of fresh air and get some inspiration from the outside a little bit.
Here, here. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I feel pretty lucky to live in the Pacific Northwest and for the fires to be over and to be having clean,
Yeah.
clear blue skies right now. But wildfires aside, pandemic
Yes.
aside, and all that, let's talk sound. So you know that I love manipulating things into new things. So when you told me your idea for this series, I was pretty stoked.
Right on.
And even more stoked to actually see it be released into the wild. And people are saying really nice things about it. What are your thoughts about it now that it's been out for a little while?
Honestly, from a business perspective, I'm just on to the next, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited that it's out, people are enjoying it. But again, like on to the next part. But like creatively and aesthetically, I mean, I just feel so happy to have this idea and this concept taken in the way that it has, taking in like, wow, people are actually really digging this. And it makes me feel really good because for me, it was like, I wanted to create something that's just very different from maybe conventional modes of thinking, at least in my own head, about creating a sample pack. So I was creating sample packs before this, and I was, okay, well, XYZ, like there's sort of a formula to it where taking the elements and manipulating them in a way that's aesthetically relevant to that element and then also relevant genre wise has
Mm-hmm.
been incredibly important.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
and just a lot of fun to do too, because it keeps you in this subjective but also objective mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that that's kind of like the nice middle ground, at least when creating sample packs. So
Yeah. Yeah. You stay wide open to discovery.
yeah, totally. It was really interesting to play around with tools that I've never really used before but I knew would be extremely helpful for what I was trying to achieve, especially with like some of the more cinematic sounds. So like using Absinthe and other plugins beyond like what I'm used to was a really great learning experience as well. Yeah, it's not only been a really cool creative business endeavor, but it's also been a learning endeavor too. For me, when it comes to this sound design and sample pack stuff, like I like to learn as I create and share those new discoveries with people.
Yeah. So I've been pretty hot and heavy with absinthe for like 20 years. Why absinthe for this pack?
Well, Absinthe totally because you sold me on it. I mean,
Fair
when
enough.
we were doing some stuff, like a few months back, and you were like, dude, try Absinthe. And I was like, okay, all right, I'll give it a try. Same thing with Guitar Rig too, by the way. I've been using that heavily in this recent pack that I'm working on. Wink, wink.
Wink, wink.
But yeah, Absinthe really sold me on the cinematic side because I found recently like the difference between, for me, in what I'm trying to achieve, the sounds that translate best for what I'm trying to achieve can be found pretty easily with Absinthe. And that excites me. And it's like, it's a really weird thing to wrap your head around. And I kind of like that. I like that it's not predictable. Maybe for someone who's been using it for 20 years, perhaps, but like for me, it's like, I have no idea with some of it sometimes. So
Yeah, I think the reason or the feelings that I have about it after using it for so long is that there are certain things that are highly predictable for me, and I like that because it speeds things up, and I'm very, very familiar with it. But then
right.
the rest is like it's straight discovery. Still,
Yeah.
after all this time.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's what makes it so fun with Absinthe. Like it has that level of randomness. It doesn't feel stale at any point, really.
yeah, yeah,
That's what I like.
I feel like it's a pretty essential component. I love tools when you get to the point where they don't need to be updated for like a decade at a time. You know,
Yeah.
they're just so solid, just so
Hmm.
solid. Yeah. And Saffron Works, he's kicking off with an easy question for you.
Yes.
How did you start making a living off of your sound packs?
It was a long haul, man. It was a grind. Like my first pack that I put out was with Loop Masters back in 2019. Actually, no, yeah, 2019, excuse me. But the important bit is that I was building these connections and staying true to what I believe in, and just, again, just establishing a really solid relationship with them and being consistent. That consistency, not only in the studio working, but consistency with like my presence in the scene and like talking with people and just being cool and all that. Yeah, very, very lucky card. Totally. I have to give a shout out to Matt Donner from Pyramind. He linked me to them, and it's been a beautiful relationship since.
Yeah.
They're a great company. I love them so much. Hung out with them a couple times, and they're just really, really good guys with great intentions for the industry. But yeah, started off with them, and then I put another pack out with them. And then later down the line, I wanted to branch out a little bit. I had this concept, the Elements series, and I emailed a bunch of labels, just kind of shot in the dark kind of thing. And Black Octopus was like, yeah, this is cool. Like, we like this. We would like to offer you this and see where it goes. And since then, it's developed into this really, really nice relationship also of, hey, we recognize your ability and we like what you're doing conceptually. So let's continue. Basically, just making a living off that has been a recipe of being consistent as
Hmm.
a person, and then being consistent in the studio and always striving to not only achieve like interesting ideas, but also accurately represent those ideas in the production. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's awesome that your second idea was picked up so quickly and that it was backed so easily and that you have more in the pipeline. It's great to
yeah,
see.
thank you. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Yeah, simply put.
Yeah. And it just dropped on Splice this week, yesterday, I
Yes.
believe. Um,
Today
this is
actually.
oh today, okay. And
Yeah,
so
hey,
this is
refresher.
your first chance to see your stuff in multiple marketplaces, right?
Yeah, so what's really cool with Black Octopus is they distributed the Aqua Pack to various platforms, and ADSR actually too,
Mm-hmm.
wink wink,
Mm-hmm.
and which is cool. Yeah, it was really cool seeing that. But anyway, so they were very excited about the idea, and they said, "Hey, we're gonna put this in the pipeline for Splice review, and we're gonna see if we can get it on Splice and maybe some front page coverage." And for that, and this is actually for any of you guys that might want to get into this, or just something to think about too, like when they offered that to me, my first thought was, okay, well, what can I do to better promote this that's going to happen and better promote the company, because they're doing this for me and the concept.
Mm-hmm.
So I reached out to a couple producers. They made some like demo videos and songs with the pack, and we're gonna put that out there pretty soon. Here, some of those videos, and it's just been a really great mutual relationship of they're gonna offer this. Like, yeah, this is gonna benefit my name and my brand and everything, but
Mm-hmm.
I also want to do what I can to benefit the people, like the producers that are helping out, but then also give Black Octopus an extra level of marketing tools
Right,
and just
right.
make this little network.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, anyway, I mean, I'm really excited that it's on Splice. And again, all that summed up, just like I'm really excited to have it on that platform, just for obvious reasons. It's kind of surreal.
Yeah, yeah, yep. It's still early. I love seeing it happen, and I love seeing it snowball so quickly for you because it's incredibly well deserved. And
Thank you, man.
yeah, oh, absolutely. And the world will know your name for for many different reasons eventually. And I like to circle back and talk about just music
Yeah.
in a sec.
Yeah.
But I also want to keep track of our chat here because people are excited to talk with
Cool.
you.
Yes.
Rain says, we're a vicious chat capable of untold destructive force, like field mice. And then also, how much of your work is Foley, organic, analog sound creation and capture versus digital manipulation?
For sure. So all the Foley stuff was totally captured with a Tascam DRO5. Very cheap field recorder. I think they updated it since.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's like $100 or so, and all of the Foley work, all the sounds that you can find in my sample packs,
Mm-hmm.
all of the Foley stuff, that's all been from the Tascam DRO5. And with the exception of a few sounds, all of the sounds, like the presets and all that, have been made straight from those Foley samples.
Mm-hmm.
And to answer your question, the most of the sounds were made through that Foley manipulation within Serum, and then some like atmosphere creation just with like audio warping in Logic.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
And outside of the production of this pack, how much do you think, like, could you find a way to quantify how much of your music making time is spent with digital manipulation versus just more organic flow?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I mean, the majority of it is definitely digital. I'm pretty much
Mm-hmm.
in the box. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like 90% of the time for sure.
Mm-hmm.
However, recently I found that the whether this is subjective or not, the best sounds are going to have an element of organic quality to them.
Yeah.
And so I've been trying to implement organic tone and organic performance within the recordings themselves. That way, all I have to do is maybe sprinkle on a little bit of nice stuff
Mm-hmm.
to make them sound a little bit more interesting. But
Mm-hmm.
most often, it's definitely in the box.
Excellent. So speaking of organic sounds versus always in the box, um, Nate brought up the fact that he heard a little rush in some of those leads in the AQUA pack.
That's so cool.
He feels it, and I feel it, and you know my thoughts on where you're going to fall in history with all of this stuff. But talk about why progressive rock. Like, what is it about progressive rock specifically that nibbles at your heart?
Man, so much. This big conversation for
It
sure.
is. It is, and it's unfair, but I'm asking.
Yeah, man, we could do this all day.
Yeah.
No, I love it though. I love it. Yeah, it's a great question. So, like, I grew up on I guess I don't want to say, but like intelligent music or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like my dad is a total progressive rock, like classical music, all that kind of stuff guy. I mean, I grew up again on like just almost entirely classical music and progressive rock. So it's just been ingrained in me. So anyway, long story short, all that stuff wrapped up into a nice ball is definitely why I find a lot of inspiration in progressive rock and classical, because all that stuff is just it's conceptual and makes you think a little bit deeper.
Yeah. Yeah. Here. Yeah. Very well said. So there's been plenty of people that cross genres in this space, and rightly so, because you can't be progressive without pushing boundaries. It's just impossible, right? How do you, as an up and coming artist that's secretly working behind the scenes on a brilliant masterpiece, how do you capture the attention of the masses and still tickle your progressive rock passions?
Yeah, again, I think it has to just go back to intention a little bit, and intention too being an interesting concept in itself. But then also aware of, okay, well, what are my influences, right? And how can I bring some of that into what I do and make that like unique for me? And then it's the thought of, okay, well, it's intention. Obviously, I'm not going to rip these guys off. I don't want to, and all of my other influences. It's just kind of a natural thing that happens. Anyway, to answer your question though, like to have, I guess, that appeal, it's when you just simply don't try to replicate something that already exists. This album that I'm working on, like, people really like it. I really like it. It's time to really put my foot down and really step into that. We were talking about this the other day. But anyway, yeah, again, it's just about intention and maybe not thinking about it too much at the same time. I know it's kind of a contradiction, but yeah, intention of, okay, these are the sounds that I like. This is the aesthetic that I'm going for, the story that I'm going for. But it's just been a lot about fun too, and going back to those roots. That's really what it's been about. It's been a couple of years of building up and tearing down, building up and tearing down to get to this point now where this is something that is interesting and, in my mind, fresh. And I think whether or not I need validation from people, I don't think validation is an important thing anyway, too, at a certain point.
Sure.
But knowing in your gut and feeling good about what you're doing, that's something to chase.
All your comments about like the stuff that you grew up on, and like my joking about how the youth, they just don't appreciate. Like, I love that. I love the Carpenters. You know what I mean? Like, when Christmas comes around, I think about the 8-track that I listen to on loop constantly on our old stereo. And I love that I was like completely immersed in Stevie Wonder and Alvin and the Chipmunks and all the other stuff that we had in our cabinet of 8-tracks and stuff. And like how each one of those experiences, each one of those artists, like voice and ethos and ideas, and just how much they impact us. I had kind of this broad scope, I guess, and my personal interest was much more current, obviously, at the time. There was a lot more interesting things to take in. Above anything else, like the stuff that I kept coming back to and trying to figure out was the progressive stuff. I think I just naturally gravitate toward your special little nook of the spectrum that you feel most comfortable in, and the language that you use, and the adjectives that you think in and feel when you're playing with sound and stuff. I just grok that. I get it. So what can we expect next from you? Yeah, not necessarily from just like a musician, but also from the sound packs. Like, we can get back to both sides of what you're working on here.
Yeah, I know I've been covering a lot of ground, so I'll kind of
that's
slow
great
down right now. This coffee is really affecting me. Anyway.
What is in that coffee?
You don't want to know. Nah. It's my cocktail. Sample packs wise, I'm working on some stuff with Black Octopus that cannot be disclosed. I'm very fortunate for that. I'm really, really looking forward to continuing that soon here. And then I'm also working on the Element series. This time it's going to be glass related, and all made from glass. And in my mind, glass has a very solid aesthetic with retro stuff, and a lot of the terms that I'm using to name the sounds, you might have seen in the AQUA one that a lot of the names come from things relevant to water, right? So in glass, I did a lot of research on like glass blowing and learning words and finding cool words for glass to name those sounds in this pack. Yeah. And a lot of them are French. So I will say this: retro and French. That's what to expect next.
Okay. Ooh, yeah. I like that.
So I'm getting some questions right now. You mind if I just go through them?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I'm just going out with the chat right now. Let's see. I just saw one right now. Classic Noble. Is there a sample pack in the upcoming Elements you're most excited for? Honestly, I'm most excited for the glass one. It's a step away from what I'm used to, like aesthetically. And I've been listening to a lot of Ed Banger records recently. So take that as you will. So I'm really excited about that one, and trying to wrap my head around the Air one too. So that's interesting. I'll ask again, do you make sounds for video game? I did briefly, if I can disclose that, Chris.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, Chris and I did that briefly for a minute, but I haven't done it professionally. I'd like to, and I'm looking to get into the sync space as well with the music that I'm working on too. So hopefully that'll wrap up nicely. How did you make the atmospheres? I used Pad Shop. I've been recently using Alchemy also. If you're a Logic user, both are extremely, extremely nice and versatile plugins. I did use Pad Shop though with a collection of reverbs, Valhalla Room specifically. What microphone did you use to record the water sounds? I used a Tascam DR05, super cheap field recorder. You can get it pretty much anywhere. Actually, I think they upgraded it recently. It might be the DR05X. Yeah, thank you, Paul. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, Tascam DR05, great little piece of thing.
Did you find it difficult to keep your album songs feeling fresh and exciting to work on while slowing the pace to work on packs, or did you find any tricks toward keeping motivated to work on any particular track?
Yeah, that's actually something that I think about quite often. Yesterday, when I was working on the one that I'm working on, I find like when I work on these packs, especially the ones that are more involved, such as the elements ones, I find that I improve. Staying motivated really comes from that. And so it kind of feeds into itself. Yeah. When I'm like, yeah, just again, just working on sample packs, listening to those things, it's like, oh, cool. Like that idea, or like maybe that tone, or maybe this or that would be really cool in that track. And so I go back, and then it's just, they feed into each other pretty much, because you get the conceptual stuff from writing the album and all that stuff. And then it's, okay, cool. Well, this might leak into some interesting concepts for sample stuff. And then the sample stuff's like, okay, I like the tone and the approaches of these things from a production standpoint. That would sound cool in the music.
Mm-hmm.
And then just out of that concept, just, it's kind of like depriving myself of working on music keeps me motivated.
Yeah. I remember having this conversation with you. I feel that it's pretty essential. I think, and I know that some people will disagree with this, but I think that motivation in our business comes from either desperation or inspiration, and that there isn't much other middle ground to drive the actual motivation to do the work. Either you're inspired or you're not, or you're desperate or you're not, right? Because there are points where you are no longer inspired with something, but you're desperate and you need to finish it, right? You may not be desperate for money or food that day, but you're desperate to keep that opportunity alive for future needs, and you want to keep that relationship going. And you know that as soon as you start to fail, that failing begets failure, and that could be a slippery slope, the same way that thinking begets thinking, right? And inspiration begets inspiration. So I personally find it to be more of a necessity than anything else. Like how do you get out of your own head if you've been working on something for months or potentially even years, if you can't put your focus on something else for a while? Yeah. So I'm sure that you've probably got a couple things that you'd like to get done today. And I know that I do need to go and get one thing done before my next session here in a bit. So we should probably wrap this up.
Yeah.
But I would love to do this again with you.
Sweet. I'd love to be back.
Yeah. Thank you so much for hanging with us today, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Cool to meet you guys too, by the way. A lot of cool people in here.
Again, check out AQUA. This is the pack that I was flipping through at the beginning of the stream. Don't forget to hit him up on Instagram and other socials. I am Imaginate. Anything else you want to say before we let you boogie?
Nah, that pretty much covers it, man. Thanks for having me. And yeah, love to hear from you guys and have some conversation. Hit me up. I'm Imaginate at Gmail. If you want to email me, I am Imaginate across all socials as well. My DMs are open. Let's talk. And I got some free stuff for you guys too. So hope to hear from you.
Awesome. And we'll get him roped into contributing to our community fund that we have here. We'll get him to upload some sounds to the community drive. On the way out, can we hear this CHARTA? Is that cool with you?
Yeah, please do play it.
All right.
Do you need a link for me? You got it.
Nah, I got it right here.
Right on, man.
Woo! Yeah. Another worthy installment. Best of luck with the sales on these new packs that are dropping. Can't
Thank you,
wait to
man.
see more. And as soon as you're ready to share updates on the album, I got ears.
Yeah, fantastic. Sometime in December for sure.
Word.
Very soon.
All right, Omi.
All right,
I'll
Chris,
see you
thanks
on the
for having
flip.
me. Yep.
Yeah, you take care, brother.
All right, you too.
All right,
Bye.
bye.